Hey guys, welcome back to Team Death Slinger. My name is Peter, and today we're going to look at Gallantmon X-Antibody in EX8. It's important to remember that this deck does not have its BT19 support yet until we get Special Booster 2.5, so this version will be working without it, but it's definitely good to take a look at because this will be a meta contender, especially once the BT19 support comes out. So, starting with our eggs, we have 4 copies of EX2 Gigimon. When attacking once per turn, if this Digimon has Guilmon, Growlmon, or Gallantmon in its name, you're going to draw 1. So this is our premier draw engine for the deck. It's just going to help keep your hand full, which is great because we have lots of X Antibody pieces that we want to be able to find. We have 2 copies of BT17 Guilmon. Your turn when one of your Gallantmon or Takato are played. Delete an opponent's Digimon 3k or less. If it didn't delete, you gain a memory. And then the Inheritable says when you have 0 or less memory, add 2k to this Digimon's DP-based deletion effect maximums. That's kind of what we really care about. The idea for this deck is that we're going to be trying to pass just a little bit over 0 at 1 or 2, use these DP deletion bonuses, and then get a bunch of memory back for deleting the opponent's Digimon to take our turn back and do more shenanigans. So this is going to synergize really well with our deck's core ideas. Next, we have 4 copies of EX2 Guilmon. On play, reveal top 4, add a card with Growlmon or Gallantmon in its name, and 1 Takato to your hand. The rest go bottom deck, and the Inheritable says when attacking, if you have Growlmon or Gallantmon in name, you pop a 3k or less. This is just the best search card in the deck. You can search basically any piece you want except X Antibody, which the new Guilmon X will let you do. We have 1 copy of the EX4 Guilmon on play. If there are 20 or more cards in both players' trash, this Digimon gains rush for the turn. We are running this because we have access to scrambles, and this is a great way to kind of cheat out a win if you can. Lastly, we have 4 copies of the EX8 Guilmon X-Antibody. On play and when Digivolving, reveal top 3 of your deck. Add a card with Growlmon or Gallantmon in its name and an X-Antibody among them to the hand. The rest go bottom. And this has the new Inheritable that when any of your opponent's Digimon are deleted, you gain 1 memory. So that's how we're going to be trying to get a bunch of memory back, like we talked about earlier. Moving on to our level 4s, we have 4 copies of BT12 Growlmon. When Digivolving, if you don't have Takato, you can play a Takato from your hand without paying the cost. This is the best way for us to cheat out Takatos, and that's why we're running 4 copies of it. It also gives you a 2k DP buff on your turn, which is going to be really important for some of our level 6s being able to swing over things like Magnamon X as well. Then we have 2 copies of ST7 Growlmon. Your turn when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, gain a memory. You can opt for the BT17 Growlmon here, but I like this one because it is a 4-cost on play, which can help unbrick you sometimes. And the Inheritable synergizes really nicely with the new Guilmon X and Growlmon X Inheritables that gain you memory back. So it's possible to gain 3 memory back on 1 stack when you delete something, and that's not even considering any Takatos that might gain you memory back as well. It's just a great way to pop something and get a ton of value out of it. Speaking of Growlmon X-Antibody, we have 4 copies of it from EX8. When Digivolving, draw 1 and trash 1 card in your hand. Then if Growlmon or X-Antibody is in this card's sources until the end of your opponent's turn, this Digimon gains on deletion. You may play 1 card with Guilmon in its name from your trash without paying the cost. So fantastic sticking power from this card. It helps you cycle pieces, and it does float you a body. And then the Inheritable gains you memory when one of your opponent's Digimon are deleted on your turn. So that's, again, helping us get a bunch of memory back for deleting our opponent's Digimon, which is what Gallantmon wants to do anyways. Moving on to our level 5s, we have 2 copies of BT12 WarGrowlmon. When Digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4k DP or less. If no opponent's Digimon was deleted by this effect, you may Digivolve into a level 6 with Gallantmon in its name in your hand for the Digivolution cost. When this Digimon would Digivolve by this effect, reduce the cost by 1. So this is a great way to kind of force yourself into the level 6 play if you can. There's some shenanigans we can do with this. If you tuck X Antibody under this, Digivolve into this, and then Evo into a Gallantmon off of this effect. If you have the Blitz Takato, you can swing with that Gallantmon, use the X Antibody effect, and then Evo into Gallantmon X. So you can force your way all the way up the line, pop bodies, get memory back, and then possibly get your turn back. And then end of attack, you also have a trigger where if your opponent has no Digimon in play and you have Growlmon or Gallantmon in name, you gain 2 memory. So on top of getting possibly 3 memory back on the stack from all your Inheritables, this can get you an extra 2, so that's possible 5 memory back to steal, and then any Takatos that gain you an extra 1 or 2 off of the EX2 Takato. So you have a possibility to steal upwards of 7 memory after forcing your way into a level 6, which is just insanely good. Next, we have 3 copies of the BT17 WarGrowlmon. When Digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6k DP or less. If this effect didn't delete, this Digimon gains security attack +1, so fantastic aggro effect. And the Inheritable says all turns, once per turn, when an effect deletes an opponent's Digimon, you may unsuspend this Digimon with Gallantmon in its name. So this is a good way to get extra aggression in, helps you unsuspend and get tons of checks in. Lastly, for our 3rd level 5, we are going to run 3 copies of WarGrowlmon X-Antibody. This costs 1 to go on top of a WarGrowlmon. When digivolving until the end of your opponent's turn, this Digimon can't be returned to hand or deck and gets 3k DP. And then if WarGrowlmon or X Antibody is in its sources, delete an opponent's Digimon 10k or less, and it has a security +1 inheritable. So this card is going to be fantastic for the extra aggro. If you get this on top of the WarGrowlmon that lets you unsuspend, you're swinging big checks, big damage, and this gives you some bounce protection. So if you can't quite make it to Gallantmon, or it's not really the best timing to do so, evoing into this can be a really good option to stop your opponent from removing your stack while you wait for a better moment to go into your level 6. For our level 6s, we have a weird spread, but I will explain. We have one copy of BT12 Gallantmon. This has Raid. When digivolving, delete an opponent's Digimon 6k or less, and when attacking, delete a 6k or less if nothing was deleted. Trash the top card of your opponent's security. We don't have access to BT19 Gallantmon. This has Raid, and we don't have BT19 Takato, so I feel like this Raid Gallantmon is the best way to force your way over a Magna X until we get the Raid Takato that just lets you attack an opponent's Digimon end of turn. So I have it as a 1-of because it is really helpful in that situation. We also have one copy of BT13 Gallantmon. I still think this is a fantastic card for cheating out game. It has Rush, so you can play a Guilmon off of the scramble, warp into it with the Takato, and then you have a Rush body that you can just swing in with. It's going to on Digivolve, on play, and when attacking, delete one of your opponent's Digimon 6k or less. If no opponent's Digimon was deleted, delete one of their 13k or more, so it can pop a wide range of bodies, as well as getting you in that Rush check to potentially save the game. We have two copies of BT17 Gallantmon. This is probably my favorite Gallantmon to go into before the X Antibody. When digivolving and when attacking, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 8k or less. If this effect didn't delete this opponent, this Digimon gets 3k DP and blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. In your turn, while you have 0 or less memory, this Digimon isn't affected by your opponent's effect. So what is really fantastic about this is we talked about forcing your way into Gallantmon earlier with this WarGrowlmon. If you force your way into this Gallantmon, you do get the blocker keyword as long as you don't delete anything. And then because of that blocker keyword, you have options when you get into Gallantmon X, because this will have an unsuspend effect, which is going to effectively let you have a blocker up on board, which is huge. So we have 3 copies of Gallantmon X-Antibody, the new boss man from EX8. He is 1 on top of a Gallantmon when digivolving and when attacking. If Gallantmon or X-Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards until the end of your opponent's turn, this Digimon gets 4k DP and one of their Digimon gets minus 4k. When digivolving and end of attack, once per turn, delete one of your opponent's 10k or lower Digimon. If this effect didn't delete, trash the top security and this Digimon unsuspends. And then all turns where you have 0 or less memory, this Digimon isn't affected by your opponent's Digimon effects. So it has some protection. It can pretty easily pop a 14k or less, and it's going to have an unsuspend and a trash effect if it doesn't pop something. So this boss monster just kind of does it all, and we're hoping to get into it as quickly as possible. Next, for our level 7s, one copy of Gallantmon Crimson Mode Ace from BT17. It is a Blast Evo, and then when digivolving and on play, you'll pop 15k's total DP worth of Digimon on your opponent's board, so really versatile with that effect. And then when attacking, for every 10 cards in both players' trashes, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. It's just a great finisher and a great way to get a bunch of memory back as well. You can actually evo into this pretty easily on your turn between the Blitz Staccatos and all of your ways to get memory back and finish out the game that way. We have 2 copies of Red Scramble. It's going to help you get into some of your more expensive Evos cheaper. You can get into Gallantmon from BT12 without paying the 4. You just pay 3 instead. You can get into the Gallantmon Crimson mode by paying 3 instead of 4. And it's going to let you play back a Guilmon if you need to and the opponent has Digimon in play. We have 4 copies of Offense Training because this is still, I think, the best supplementary search package for Red. We have the Guilmon for on-play search. We have the Guilmon X to find our X Antibodies. This is just going to help us get some Evo discounts, which is going to be really nice. 2 copies of X Antibody from BT9. I do prefer this over the Protoform in this build because we can Evo into the Gallantmon X mid-swing because we are going to be able to Evo and swing and do blitz shenanigans and all that. So it's just kind of going to make sure that we can get into the X Antibody when we want to, or into the Gallantmon X when we want to. We have 1 copy of BT12 Takato. I really just have him because he's a memory setter and we don't have the BT19 Takato yet, but he does have a main once per turn effect that you can warp into a Gallantmon and get plus 2k DP, so that is kind of useful for the BT13 Gallantmon rush play. Then we have 2 copies of the BT17 Takato. Start of your main phase, if you have a Guilmon, Growlmon, or Gallantmon, you gain a memory, and then end of turn you can warp into a Gallantmon instead of on main. Lastly, 2 copies of EX2 Takato. Your turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, you can suspend this Tamer to gain a memory, so that's how we're able to steal upwards of 5 memory, like we were talking about, closer to 7. And then your turn, when you would Evo into a Gallantmon or Growlmon, that Digimon gains when digivolving Blitz. So it's going to give all of our bodies Blitz and help us do some of the when digivolving passing turn shenanigans with protection on our BT17 Guilmon and Gallantmon X. So that is it for my EX8 Gallantmon X-Antibody deck profile. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What are you doing with this boss monster until we get the BT19 support? Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Thank you to our patrons for supporting this video. It's people like Langlong and Coffee Deus who make videos like this possible.